Hello, friends and family members. Uh, I'm sure many of you guys might be surprised to find out that I actually play Yu-Gi-Oh, an old card game, strategy card game from the 90s. I'm sure some of you people around my age remember this game from our youth. I've actually played my whole life up until now, but it's actually not what I'm here to talk about. I'm actually here to talk about the passing of a dear friend of mine, Jeremiah Lamar Rivera. As I don't know if I'm not very eloquent with words. I just want to say right off the bat, I am a little kind of nervous talking about this, but I figured, I have to make this video. I have to talk about like what we went through and to commemorate his life, because honestly, Jeremiah was my best friend. He was with me when no one else was, and not only that, we grew up together, and I wanted to make this video to let people know, I was actually asked by the family of Jeremiah to say some words at his funeral. Unfortunately, I wasn't home at the time. I was going through some difficulties in my own life, so unfortunately, I couldn't make it to his funeral. And in fact, I only recently found out that he passed when I got home, because I was away. I'm not sure how long this video will be, or if anybody will really watch it, but it'll help me grieve, I guess. The card you see in front of you is one of Jeremiah's favorite cards he used to play, from the only deck he ever played, as far as I know. Well, he played other decks on and off, but the main deck he would always play was an Elemental Hero deck, which I don't expect most people to know what Elemental Heroes are, given that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become somewhat of a niche. It's been a staple in my life, but yeah. Right now, I don't really own many Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I was actually planning on quitting until I found out what happened, and I actually went to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament today, and I picked up these cards. This card and another card that I'll probably be showing you guys later. I missed his service, his funeral service, so I thought, why not have a symbolic one at my house with his favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card and this tin. This tin is actually called the Golden Sarcophagus tin. Was thinking I'd maybe bury it in the backyard tomorrow morning. Maybe post a video about that. You know, this card, this card really represents a lot of what Jeremiah meant to me. I'm just gonna set it here and probably move on to the rest of the video. I'm probably going to go outside. I was just gonna maybe talk about our upbringing and how we met and what happened over the years. You know, what eventually led up to Jeremiah's passing, because I think his life and our friendship has a lot to teach people. So let's see. Okay, just gonna go outside. My phone's about to die, so I don't really know how long this video will be. Well, yeah. Okay, part 2 of the video. So I just kind of wanted to talk about how me and Jeremiah grew up and how we met. So, you know, I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, I first encountered the game as a 7-year-old in the early 2000s. A friend of mine, an early childhood friend by the name of Joey Tyrell, actually would play with me when I would go to his house, and you know, we would pull out the cards, and neither one of us really knew the rules. We just kind of would mess around, and I didn't realize it would be such a big part of my life, and so for many years I didn't really touch the game until I was a little older, maybe around 12. When I was around 12, I started watching the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime on TV, which was a later incarnation of the cartoon that many people know, the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, but with new mechanics and new character. It was the third incarnation of the series, actually. It was there was Yu-Gi-Oh!, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and then Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. And I don't really know what it was, but I started buying the packs. I started looking for tournaments. There was not many tournaments. Well, there was only one tournament, or one store that housed tournaments in the Valley at the time, and that was JB Sports in Cathedral City. And yeah, that's where I started. I started going there on Saturdays, I believe. On Saturdays, as a 12-year-old, I would you know, it was $7. You would go. You would bring your cards. There would be kids there. You know, there would be teenagers there. And we would all play. At first, I was not very good. You know, I still didn't really know the rules all that well, but you know, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was probably like the thing I looked forward to the most out of the week. I would walk. I would ride my bike. I would do everything I had to do to make it every weekend to that Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament. And at first, Jeremiah wasn't there. Jeremiah came a little later. At first, it was just me and maybe a couple other kids, like Chance Strebe, and you know, I think Dylan probably showed up first too. Jeremiah was from a town called Sunnyvale, and he moved into the valley a little later. And a lot of people at the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament actually, they weren't very friendly to me. I think I don't really know why. I there were certainly people who were, there were I remember a kid specifically who did kind of mentor me. I don't really remember his name because it was so long ago. But other than that kid, it was kind of like not the most inviting. Not always. It was fun, it was fun, but there was many times where I did feel bullied. And but Jeremiah, when he got there, we really hit it off the bat right away. I remember when he walked in, I remember immediately recognizing him as like a rival in a very friendly way. In a I knew this guy was I don't know, something told me he was gonna be around, like we were gonna be friends. Um, and he seemed really like enthusiastic about the game, and a very happy person. And to be honest, at back then, he was actually a little bit intimidating. He came off very smart, very intelligent, but very kind at the same time. And we dueled. I remember we dueled, and I remember he beat me. He beat me the very first game we had, and to be honest, that was going to be like the how most of our games went for the rest of our lives. I mean, I definitely did beat him a couple times, but he ended up winning most of the games. He really knew what he was doing. He was creative. He would put cards together that no one else would think to put together. Keep in mind, he would only run the same deck, format after format, which is a hero deck. Formats change. Like a hero deck is not always gonna be. In fact, it's very rarely going to be a competitive deck. But he managed to always always be a threat, really. And I think it takes a very sharp person to be able to do that. um, you know it was kind of amazing. um, yeah. um, as the years went on, we kept playing. It went on from really at that age of 12 to like middle school, and eventually I kind of started becoming a little self-conscious about playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and I actually left the game for a very long time. I guess I was growing up or something, right? And I didn't really hang out with my Yu-Gi-Oh friends anymore. I kind of started hanging out with a different crowd. That's why I think a lot of people would be surprised to find out that I actually play Yu-Gi-Oh, because a lot of my friends on Facebook, they're from a different scene. They're more from from a rocker, a metal punk scene, and And that all started in high school, when I left the game to hang out with like my friend Adrian and my girlfriend Sonia. And um and around that time is when I started getting into marijuana. I you know um I yeah, and that didn't really go so well for me. On the other hand, Jeremiah was doing very well. He was doing good in school. He graduated early from high school actually, and me and Sonia, we didn't last very long. I uh, I actually ended up alienating a lot of my friends after high school. Some of you guys might remember that, and for that I am very sorry. Um, I became really attached to marijuana, and that's all I would really think about. I even ended up on the streets for a very long time, and no one wanted to hang out with me. But Jeremiah actually did. He came out and he made sure I was okay while I was out there. There was a day he took me to the top of the mountain in Palm Springs. We went on a hike, and I remember that day specifically because we had a very interesting talk at the top of that mountain. And it might sound pretentious, but sorry, I had to come inside because my battery had died on the phone. But yeah, and I also apologize because I didn't have my face in the video until now. But yeah, um, yeah. So I think I had left off where I was talking about my time after high school, where I was homeless, and Jeremiah came to talk to me. He We had a very strange conversation that day. He took me to the top of the mountain, and he actually told me his intentions, or his dream was to become a god. As strange as that might sound, um, you know, I know for many of you religious people out there that might sound somewhat outlandish or even blasphemous, but a lot of there's a lot of people who actually believe that humans are actually forms of gods. Like this idea is very popular in Hinduism and Buddhism. Um, you know. Anyway, I actually surprisingly had a similar dream at the time, which was also surprisingly very pretentious. I wanted to bring about a full immersive virtual reality in high school, and that dream, never really um, became a reality. It probably was never going to become a reality. But I remember him, when he told me that was the first thing I thought of, was that whole virtual reality thing, because in a way I was also trying to become a god through technology. I wanted to have a virtual reality where you could control everything with your mind, create landscapes and um, run around, do pretty much anything. And, you know, um, I think that day we also took it upon ourselves to have like a bet, right? We bet. We said, one of us was going to do this, and I was going to do it through technology, and he never told me what means he had for achieving such a, grandiose dream of becoming a god. Um, but you know, um, we never really talked about it after that. It was just kind of not something we brought up. I think a lot of kids growing up have those kinds of moments of delusions, of things where we want to do when we grow up that never really come true. But um, so anyway, time went on, and one day, I guess somewhere along the lines through Yu-Gi-Oh, Jeremiah actually found a girlfriend, and this girl, was very, very good to him, they loved each other. Um, they would play together, and eventually they got married. And this during that time, I wasn't really around, and he but he did invite me to his bachelorette party. I remember specifically fixing a fixture of or a hair, some sort of hair accessory on his wife's hair, and we didn't really interact much, him and me and his wife, but they were good together for many years as boyfriend and girlfriend. But when they got married, they moved, and I think what eventually actually the actual cause of his death was that of a broken heart, because he his girlfriend ended up you know not being faithful with another one of our friends from a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. And this person, he's still our friend. Cheating happens. Cheating happens. It's gonna happen. 50% of marriages, right, end in divorce. I actually am still very close to the person that did this, and I don't really blame him, and I don't think he should blame himself, because it's human nature. But anyway, um, this unfortunately had a severe effect on my friend Jeremiah's mind. He actually became schizophrenic, and I'm sorry for the lighting. My lights just turned off their motion censored. Let's see. Sorry, we're just gonna have to. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. But yeah, unfortunately, Jeremiah did come down with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, which surprisingly, me and him also have that in common. We are both schizophrenics. I got schizophrenia probably around the same time, but I got schizophrenia from, drugs. I was taking LSD, and one day, I came down and I started hearing voices. And I think that was also a very important part of our life, because, Jeremiah moved back. He had moved away with his wife, and he moved back, and people started alienating him, and because he wasn't healthy to be around. He was always talking to himself and not really making any sense. And he actually, started hanging out with me a lot. And we had that in common. I personally know what it's like to be schizophrenic. So, when he would talk to himself, I kind of knew what he was going through. He lived very much in his own little world. My schizophrenia and his schizophrenia were very different. A lot of you guys, who hang out with me probably don't even know I'm schizophrenic because I don't talk to myself. I hear voices pretty much all day, but I never respond to them. I've been practicing, I've been learning about Hinduism and Buddhism for most of my life, and that allows me to handle the disease a lot better than I think most people do. Um, you know, Schizophrenia has a tendency to make people they develop like a form of solipsism where they believe they are the center of the universe and the only creature alive sometimes. I know because I've had these thoughts myself, and many schizophrenics explain this through their experience. But Jeremiah never really talked about that. I don't know why. I think, I would like to think maybe from a place of compassion. Like because if you're a solipsist and you don't really think about other people, you don't really consider their feelings. You just assume you're the only person around, and everybody else is just an illusion. I mean, which is understandable because some of the things you see when you have schizophrenia can be very hard to explain. Um, like it feels like people are always talking about you. They know things that you do not tell them. Um, and it can be very hard to ignore, especially at the beginning. I remember it was for me. It definitely took a lot of time for me to get used to it. And it was very embarrassing because they knew things that I didn't want. People knew things about me that I didn't want them to know. At least that's what I perceived. Jeremiah's schizophrenia was very different. He lived in a fantasy world. He talked to AI apparently, that wasn't really there. He talked to he was very into anime and anime girls, and I think he would see them, floating around talking to him, and he called them AI. And like I explained earlier, he was a very intelligent person. He was very creative. He thought outside the box in many ways. And so another thing about schizophrenia, it's not, it's, some people say it's fake, like a psychologist would definitely tell you, it's not really real, it's not going on, but, many spiritualists, many Hindus, many Buddhists, and many Christians, would definitely tell you that there is a spiritual realm out there, and you can interact with it. Like it's not very outlandish to think that someone could be reading your thoughts. There is a quote from the Upanishads that says, we are like empty vases in a room. The space in the air that fills the room, is our consciousness. The body is our vase, is the vase, and but really there is no separateness, and I definitely think someone can come into tune with that sort of that type of consciousness and not even be aware of it or not be prepared for it. That's actually a big thing with schizophrenics. They when they start hearing voices, they don't really know how to explain what's going on because of there's no cultural context for it. Like no one goes around saying that, like, yes, it's very normal for people to read other people's thoughts or to see things that, like may appear to be magical or illusionary, right? It's not, a very expressed form thing in our society, which there is a context for it in our society, but that context is very limited to religion and spirituality, which is denied by science. So yeah, so the mind tries to find any explanation to what people are perceiving, and unless you have a religious a knowledge of religion, to help you through that, it can be very difficult. You start thinking that, someone planted a chip in your mind, or like you try to justify it somehow. Even with a spiritual backbone or whatever, you still try to find different ways to justify it. And I only recently have gained like a form of peace, um, from my schizophrenia through the Bhagavad Gita. It's a book. It's a religious book about a god known as Krishna. His it's a very, it can be a very obscure religion. Not too many people know about it. It's pretty much just Hinduism. I live in a Christian household. I'm open to Christian ideas, but um, nothing really has helped me as much as that book did. I actually read it for the first time, very um, all the way through. A couple months ago, and it really cleared me up. It taught me a lot of about what I was experiencing, and and I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't really been that broken up throughout this whole video, even though I recently found out that Jeremiah has died, and that is not because I'm like a really strong, suppressed, or I don't have feelings. I definitely do have feelings. It's just that book, it teaches you. It tells you that death is an illusion. Death it teaches you about reincarnation. That when you die, it is like taking off your clothes, and when you take off your clothes, you find new clothes, and you sorry my dogs. Yes, but yeah, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, you know um, one thinks he is the slayer, and the other believes he is being slain, but both are fools. It also says the wise do not mourn for the living nor the dead. Um, the book is not actually advocating reincarnation. It doesn't tell you that you should be, born again. It actually advocates a form of immortality in a way, where you get to a point where you don't actually have to die anymore. Um, Sorry. And I I've been practicing only for a few months, but I've seen a lot of things that kind of point to that idea of immortality through the service of others rather than yourself. Like giving up your material possessions, but not going off into the woods to meditate. Rather, you stay in the world and you help others as a form of renunciation. Um, and that brings it back to what we talked about at that mountain that day, about becoming a god or whatever. Um, I honestly, at that time I was very in a very bad spot, and the way Jeremiah died, what he was in a very bad spot. It was kind of like we traded, actually. It was, like he was the genius that graduated early and had his girlfriend, was always very good at Yu-Gi-Oh, and me, I was that loser that was smoking weed and homeless. And another thing, a lot of you guys probably don't know that I play Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was very ashamed, playing Yu-Gi-Oh. Jeremiah was never ashamed, but from now on, I think I'm going to be wearing it as a badge of honor and as a way to remember my friend. Like a lot of people in the metal scene, or in the gangsters or whatever, they don't really think that playing Yu-Gi-Oh is very cool, which I understand, but that doesn't really matter to me anymore. And finally, to end off this video, I'm just gonna show you guys another card that was recently printed. It's called the Elemental Hero Spirit of Neos. It's different than the one that I showed you guys in the other video. I don't know if I can get it into focus. Don't think so. It's called Elemental Hero the Spirit of Neos, and the other one is called Elemental Hero Neos. I'm going to bury the Elemental Hero Neos in my backyard because I didn't get to go to Jeremiah's funeral, but I'm keeping Elemental Hero Spirit of Neos because Jeremiah, he lives on. It doesn't matter what religion you believe in, whether he's in heaven with Jesus or maybe he became an immortal, or maybe he reincarnated. That's not really what's important, because eventually everybody does reach that point of immortality in Hinduism and Buddhism, and in Christianity, we die. We die every second. We die every night when we go to sleep, and we're born again when we wake up in the morning. And the final death is really just immortality, going to heaven. So wherever he is, he's out there somewhere. So his spirit is alive, and I'll be keeping this card. That is all I wanted to say today. Sorry, I know the video dragged on for like maybe an hour. So if you sticked around, thank you. But it was kind of just for me to mourn or to get this out, So thank you. I'll see you guys around. Jeremiah and his passing. I said I was going to bury, his favorite card in our backyard, so we're gonna do that now. My brother-in-law here is helping me do it, so yeah. 1 second. You want to do the
shovel this in?
I just want to say thank you, Jeremiah. You were always with me when I needed you, when really no one else was. So thank you very much, Jeremiah. You will be missed. Our whole family misses you. So yeah, I love you, man.
All right, Jeremiah. See you on the other side, man.